Okay, all right, so we're gonna make some creative portfolio pieces, all right? So I'm gonna demonstrate a bunch of different things. And so one of the things that can make a really cool portfolio piece for an architectural portfolio is to do a photo transfer onto a wood panel. There's lots of different methods of doing that. So if you find this interesting, you might want to watch some videos and try it out yourself. So what we're going to use, the easiest way is to use gel medium. So it's just a matte acrylic medium. You can get them in little jars or bottles or tubes. And you use it for mixing with acrylic paint. Has anybody used that in art class or anything before? So I just bought a cheap one here, like $6. You know, nothing, doesn't have to be the best quality to do this. Paintbrush. Normally I would use probably a bigger paintbrush, but it's just sort of what I had. Now, what I did, I took some prints of some photographs I found. So I got these two on a free, royalty-free website to get images. Aren't they cool? And I thought these could make really interesting bases to do some more painting and drawing on top. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to transfer just the ink onto the board, not the paper. Okay. So I thought this could be kind of fun if I put that at the bottom, and then I can do more stuff. I think this one looks super cool and would probably fit nicely on this page. So there's two ways of doing it. You can take the acrylic and coat the board a couple of times, and it helps the image adhere to that. I want to try it just on the wood because I like the idea of not having a perfect transfer. So the more perfect you want the transfer, the more you prefer to have the wood coated first. And you can get, if you want to make this into a really nice looking piece, you can get these boards where they have like a frame underneath it. So they have some depth. You could even use more than one of different thickness if you wanted, and maybe that would even add more to your look. I don't know. But you see, you can transfer color photos. You can transfer magazine photos, the ink out of the magazine, but that'll usually take both front and back side. So it depends if you would be okay with whatever's on the back side. Best is to just print. So whether it's photocopy or inkjet, it's basically just transferring the ink onto the new surface and then getting rid of the paper itself after it's dry. We're going to wet the paper and rub the paper away so that only the ink shows on your board. Then you do more drawing, more layers. So you could take those two photos you found of the beehive and the human hive, and superimpose one on the other. Maybe try color versus black and white to see those layers better, right? So the idea here, so what we're going to do, we're going to coat the front side of this photo with this stuff. It's probably best to use a big brush so you're not messing around with a lot. So I probably should have brought one of my bigger brushes, but let's see what happens. So, and I think I want most of this image. And I think it'd be cool if I don't get all of it. Now, if you want to transfer it where it looks like a brush stroke, just use a big brush, whoosh, right? Don't transfer all of it. So if you want the whole image, you're going to coat the whole thing, right? And if we don't want paintbrush strokes ending up on our wood, I'll just use the basket around here. I'm gonna, how much do I, and I could also decide what do I want. Do I want any of this to show, or do I want to paint just here, right? I could carefully paint just what I want to transfer as well, right? So looks like I better keep painting because I got so much on here. But maybe I don't want the sky, because I'm going to do my own sky thing, maybe, right? And it doesn't matter how this is, just that you get it on kind of smooth. So, because one of the things for architecture and design students, you need to make creative pieces for your portfolio. but they don't have to be, you don't have to be an artist, right? You're a designer. So if you can't draw and paint perfectly well, you can make some really cool images by using different techniques like this, right? And it's more creative than just using Photoshop. It makes a really interesting looking image, right? I just got a little bit too much here, so I'm just going to wipe it off. Okay, so there's a couple different methods. Some people soak it first and then do it again, but we're going to just soak it and then we're going to rub it onto the wood right away. Okay. Remember that it ends up reversed. So if you want your photo the other way, flip your photo first. Now, what some people do is put this on the back too, but I think personally, I think that's a bad idea. What I would do instead is use some water. So, all right, so I'm going to drink some water. I'm going to use the water. Done. Okay, now I'm going to make this wet from the back side a little bit. Get that off of there. So that I'm sure it's going to sort of really stick down. Watch videos though, there's several different sort of ways of doing this, okay? So I just want to get that nicely adhered. And then I have to set that aside to dry, okay, for a bit, till that gel medium that's underneath has dried and stuck onto the board. So basically we're kind of gluing the ink onto the board with the gel medium. You can also dissolve the ink into the board using solvents, but I'm not about to use solvents in this studio, and you want to make sure you have good ventilation if you're doing that. Okay, so I'm just going to let that dry. Make sure that when you do it, there's like a thorough coating of the gel medium so that it can glue it to the board, right? Maybe make sure it's really rubbed on there. So hopefully I have enough. I didn't do the cooking show thing and do it last night because I was too busy with other stuff. I was kind of wanting to, but so I'm going to set that aside to dry, and then what we're going to do is we're going to wet that and basically like rub it either with your hands, a sponge, like a scraping tool, and you're going to get rid of the paper but leave the ink behind. So, and with having just one coat, I won't have a perfect transfer. If you want a perfect transfer, you want to pre-coat your page, your wood, to make it like have a plasticky coating on it first, then you'll get a really clean transfer. So one of the things you might want to do, Sanine, with your layers, if you choose to do it this way, you can also put a color on the wood if you want before you do it. You could put some color in with some gel medium, right? If you want to color back there, or use a stain or even watercolor, you'll stain the wood, right? And then you could transfer an image. You could put some more stuff on top and then transfer another image, right? Yeah. So it could possibly work and it could look really cool. So one of the images you might want to get less perfect of a transfer, and the other one you might want to have a more perfect transfer, right? So we'll watch a few videos if you like what you're going to see here. So that I just have to set aside so it dries. Put that away. Now let's look at some other methods. I think I'll show you a few methods first, and then I'm going to show you guys what you can do with your drawings, right, that you already started. There's a couple of different ways we can approach it. There's one we're going to work on in class this afternoon, in the drawing class, but here I want to say, how do you take that and do something really creative with it, right? So, because they always say, oh, we need these creative pieces in our portfolios. And yet you're not necessarily an artist, right? So how can you do that and still have that architectural feel with artistic feel? So one method is to use chalk pastel, and it's super easy to use and really cheap. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try, so I'm going to I saw this really cool design idea and a really cool way of making a sketch. I thought, oh, what a fun way to make a concept sketch. So I'm going to show you guys that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my chalk pastel and just a utility knife. And so this is the cutting edge here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to shave off, just flick off the pastel stick, some blue powder to the paper. So I'm going to make a sky. And then I think I'll put a little bit of gray at the bottom. And then maybe some, okay, maybe I want grass or maybe a reflecting pool. Maybe I'll make kind of like an aqua color. I'm going to use a little bit of green and blue. I won't make aqua because I don't have an aqua. So that's the cool thing. This is kind of, I guess that's the same way. The cool thing about pastels, you can buy a set and not have it recolored, but be able to make the color, right? So, and you can even like custom mix color. So I'm going to put a little bit of green. So I'm going to say there's a greenish reflecting pool underneath this thing I'm going to make. So I'm going to make something architectural. Oh, that's really kind of creative-ish. And I'm just doing it as a creative drawing here. So I'm mixing the colors together. A little bit of yellow in there to make it more aqua-ish. And then maybe a bit of cream or light. That might help fit in. I could also pre-mix my colors on the side and then apply them onto my page. So what I'm going to use is just a makeup sponge or a cotton ball or a Kleenex, anything like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to smear this on the page, okay? So, and so what I want to do here is I want to just cover my page and I'm going to sort of draw some of my sky. I'm going to show you another one where we draw with this stuff and make like, you know, some sort of design scene. A little bit of gray here. And then my reflecting pool. So this one's quite soft. And this is like a really smooth marker, like an opaque marker paper that I'm using right now. If you use it on drawing paper, like in your sketchbook that has a little more texture to it, it'll grab hold of this stronger. Okay, so, you know, and it can kind of put it on kind of messy and even leave it as a bubble so it looks kind of cool. Can you even see that? It doesn't even show on the camera. Okay. That's weird. I can see it here, but the camera doesn't see it. Okay. Maybe I should use my other paper. Use my drawing paper. Here's my drawing. Let's do that on drawing paper. It'll stick better. So hopefully my camera can see it. Aqua. Aqua. So I can also, like on the side, say I want to mix aqua. I'm going to scratch some off. That color. Oops, it's not in my camera view. That's in the camera view. Okay, so I've got that color, and I'm going to add some blue. And this way you can get exactly the color you want because you can pre-mix it to what you want. You can make, and you can match a paint color if you want doing this. I've done it for shingles or bricks or whatever. And what's really nice, it's like painting. It looks like a watercolor painting, but it's way easier to do and much cheaper. It takes much less skill. And instead of drawing directly with the pastel, we're just, so I can see, do I like this color, right? So I often just use like a Q-tip or something and stir it, or you just stir it with my knife until I get the color I want. Then I take either a cotton ball or a sponge or something, pick up the color onto the sponge, you see? And then I can draw on here. So you see how it shows up better. Still looks really faint on my computer, but we see that this looks a lot stronger here. So I can say, let me do this. You could even give it like, I'm a painter. you know, make it look kind of cool, right? If you have another color, you can flip your sponge over and say, I'm going to do some sky now. So maybe that's grass and sky or reflecting pool and sky. And then make some cloud-like shapes. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take an eraser and erase out my building. Okay, so I'm kind of copying something I saw that I went, oh, that's so cool. And this is from memory because I don't want to copy it exactly. But they just took an eraser and then they did this kind of scribble out of the blue. And then, so their building had this sort of shape. And then I think I will say, okay, I want some glass here. So I'm dragging the side of my eraser. And then I think what I'll do now is take some of this green color and pull it up there. And then I want to reflect this down. It's really not showing on my camera. I hope it comes out. I hope it's not just my screen. You guys can see this, right? I need to get it better. Oh, I'm going to do the opposite, right? It's doing that. The opposite, reflecting into this pool. Just going to reflect the glass down there. And I want the pool to maybe have a shape. So maybe the pool is going to be coming out like this. So I'm going to get rid of the green over here. And I'm going to put paving there instead. Okay. So maybe I will change the shape of the reflecting pool to be elliptical. It's going to just be there. Okay. So you see how this is very forgiving. I'm just going to erase this out. So now I have this elliptical reflecting pool here. Get rid of some of that dust. Brush is a good idea. Like a soft water, like a big watercolor brush or something, you dust it off. Maybe it doesn't show on the camera, but you guys see that, right? So that's my first. And you see how it's very light and you're just starting to find an image. Now we're going to add some more tone back. So let's say I want to add some gray and I still want to keep it soft. So if I want it soft, I want to scrape the, see, I'm using a palette knife. Anything sort of sharp will also cut it off, right? So now I'm going to take another sponge and put some gray down. So just pick it up on the sponge. And I can draw with the sponge because of the shape of it. Where if it's a cotton ball, I can do like really soft stuff like clouds, and I can't really draw shapes. So now I can draw that edge and get sort of a gray tone for the ground. And I get a natural automatic gradation because I'm running out of the pigment powder, right? You could even give it a sense of perspective if you want, like paving lines by kind of scratching through it. I was just sort of pushing my fingernail through it. We need a little bit more gray, so pick up some gray over here. I start. See how easy this is? Like trying to do the same thing with watercolor is so much harder. And I can erase this. So if there's something I don't like, I can change it, right? So we start to get something soft in there. Let's say we'll probably want some trees and stuff in the background or other buildings. So there's other tools you can use too. So there's little applicators you can buy at the art store. They come in different shapes. It's like a little palette knife with these sponge applicators. It's basically like makeup applicators, right? So So you can buy these. You can buy a whole set of different shapes of palette knives, but I think I either use the triangle shaped one or this rectangle one. So now with that, I could say, I'm going to draw some buildings back there. So I can take my sticks, and here's my pastel set. I could grab right off of my sticks onto this tool. These are designed to use with pan pastels. Like they're little, they look honestly like little makeup pans, right? If you, like the store we have here, Wyndham Art Supplies, as soon as you walk in the door, you see these little discs of color and these clear, they almost look like little blush containers, you know, of all these different colors. And they're a quick release where when you rub, it comes right off. Yeah. Just like, you know, makeup does. And so, but I could rub right off the stick onto this applicator, and then I could draw with this some buildings back here if I want, right? I could also do it this way. I could pick up some color here. So now I have like a cityscape back there, kind of soft. The other thing I can do, use a bit of black if I want. This is just compressed charcoal. So, and I might load a little bit onto the edge of it. And so now I could do things like add a bit of tone. So what an easy way to sort of draw a soft background in behind that, right? Maybe we'll put some trees over there. I want to add something to this building, right? So I think I need a shade sign underneath. So maybe I'll use a little bit of black and a touch of this gray I was using. Maybe just a hint of blue so it still feels related. So I get that on my stick. And I'm just going to draw underneath here. Create a bit of shadow under there. And I think I want to make the windows darker. So I'm thinking I want some more blue on there. Now I can also use the stick itself to say I want some blue inside here. And I want to reflect some of that into the reflecting pool, but I didn't push as hard. Okay. And I'm just going to flip this sponge over to the blue side. So I usually I'll have one color on one side and another color on the other side. I get dirty fingers, but at least I economize on the number of sponges I'm buying, right? Okay, so now I'm going to blend that in just a bit. Now, the one I saw this person do, they honestly, it was just like scribble almost. I'm doing a little bit more to it just to show you what you can do. And then I'm going to show you this image that I can. In fact, I think I emailed it to you guys. Yeah. You recognizing what I'm making? Yeah. So you see how it's starting to become a building that's really just fun and loose, right? And then just put some shadow under there. Easy, right? And it looks so cool and creative. Now, I'm going to do a little bit more erasing out. I could use one of these. I could use a pencil on an eraser too, right? Or eraser on a pencil. I'm going to find some more, you know, a little bit of shape out of this. So I can separate it maybe from the, so I think it's almost like it's a glass building. And then I want to give this glass a sense of separation, like maybe some mullions. So I'm going to drag some mullions through here. Just with my fine tip eraser. And then I'm going to add them to the reflecting pool too. And if I want, I could even give it a little wiggle. Use a little bit of and skim through this a bit to show that this is the water surface, right? And I should add some of that shadowing there so that makes sense, and add a bit more of this dark in the reflection. Come back, clean that up a bit more. So I've added a little more flare than the, but I will show you the one that I was looking at, that it was super creative, right? Was so loose. Just, poof, it's just an idea, right? But you can have a bit of fun with these things, right? So that everything you do doesn't have to be like this finished, amazing thing, right? It can be done kind of in a creative way. Just give it a little more pizzazz, you know? Let's see, what if we added a few trees, right? So I might even just put a few colors in there, even just with the sticks directly. Right? And then smudge it in a little. Drag a few trunks through there. Of course, you could use like a Q-tip works really great for this kind of thing too. And maybe a little bit of purple in the background would look kind of cool. It didn't look very purple. So that's one way to make sort of a creative image. Now, if you find that that looks too weak, now what you do is take a pen and add a few scribbles into that, right? This one, oh, this one's dried up. Okay. How about this brush pen? Oh, it's graphic. This is the scary part. Yeah. That is confidently add a few scribbles to this to give it some strength, right? Because it's a little bit weak right now. So, and so this sometimes is scary. And what else should I do? You don't want to do too much to it, right? Maybe give it a little bit of underside here. So, you could also do that with a grayscale marker to make it less intense. Like that looks pretty severe with the soft pastel. So if I had used like a gray marker, that would look softer and be a little bit more in keeping with the look of it, right? So you could also use a slightly lighter pen and just give that a little more sense of, you know. Yeah. And then maybe I'll give this a sense of paving line. So I have to think about, you know, vanishing points when I do that, you know, so. Anyway. You don't have to do that. Because sometimes when students do that, it just makes it look worse because they're not used to perspective yet. So and since I added those, I probably should drag a little bit of dark through the water. Okay. So, and then I need that reflection of that thing. And maybe I'll add a bit more dark to that. So this is just the opposite of that, right? So now you've made like a quick concept sketchy thing, right? And it looks really creative. And if it comes out a bit faint, scan it and do a little Photoshop to it, you know, or and just play with it in your photo editor to increase the contrast or something if you find it comes out a little weak. So the more tooth to the paper, the more texture to the paper, the more it's going to stay on there. Now, if you find it still too weak looking, you can add color on or add texture. So if I want to make this ground plane look like it's coming forward, I could draw some on top and it shows me texture, right? And so now the concrete has a bit of texture to it, and it starts to feel like it's coming forward more compared to what's back there, right? And I can add some emphasis to my building if I want by adding some more on top, right? So that's one method. Do you think you could do something like that? Here's another thing. Let's say you're going to do your one of your sketches. So marker paper. So what I would do with would use some translucent marker paper. So this one you can see through a little bit, right? So like I can see that through here. So let's say I wanted to sort of sketch over one of yours, but I'm just going to make something up. So I can trace over my drawing, right? What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just say I'm making a house or something, or your cool little bubbles or something, right? So let's say I make one of your bubbles. I'm just going to make it really loose because I'm too impatient. Probably you'll draw it with a little more care than I am, but let yourself sometimes be a little loose, right? And just let yourself play a little to be not as precious about things. I don't know, I'm just making something up, I don't know. And then put it in a bit of a setting. So one of the things you want to do in your portfolio is allow yourself to be sort of free sometimes and not always so precise, where you can let yourself just sort of sketch freely. So when you start with your line really light, it allows you to find what you want, and all those other sketchy lines just become part of the drawing. And then you slow down and decide what it is, right? By pushing a little harder. So then I can say, okay, I'm going to slow down a little. I'm going to give this some emphasis now. And the rest of it just makes it look super creative. Right? And, oh, this was just an idea. Look what I did. I do not know how to do this slide thing. It doesn't really work. But, and then maybe there's a little path under here. And it doesn't even matter if it doesn't end up being the design. It was just a design phase. I was just sketching, and then there's some trees that are going to be over here, right? So maybe I'll find a path that goes around, and something, maybe some more path over there, just to sort of ground this thing. And then there's going to be some trees back there. And I could, if I want, just sort of indicate a few of them. So you're just drawing a few lines, not a lot. Tree. So you just give a little bit. And now the rest we're going to do with the pastel. And it can even be done, or like a watercolor wash. Just get a big brush and so that's why I included some of those examples that I emailed to you guys last night. So you can use this blue here, scrape it off if you want. You can draw directly as well. sponge, pick up the blue, and draw on there. I can draw right on it, and then smudge it in. Shoot, I forgot my power cord again. I'm terrible, aren't I? So, you know, kind of scribble it on. Think about where your light source is. Add a little bit of lighter yellow, add a bit of darker, and then blend them in. You can also apply it, you know, with a tool like this. And then now I could say I'm going to blend that a bit. And you don't even have to color inside the edges. You know, like some of those examples I showed you, it was like wiped on the color. Do you remember seeing those that I emailed you guys? But this is a kind of a nice way. And see, we don't want a whole lot of like a proper pastel drawing. You know, you need specialized papers, you need more experience, and you don't really want a mess of color, like powder, in your architecture portfolio, right? And what's great about this, it's cheap and you can erase it. You make a mistake, you can erase it. You want to make it more perfect, you can, but it doesn't have to be. It can be just this quite kind of loose, suggestive thing, right? And then I might use just a little bit of some violet in the background for some shadowing, just to make it look kind of pretty. Put it on the blue. Blend it in. What color are your pods? Are they bright and colorful?
I was thinking like red.
Red. Oh, fun. Like bright red or pink red or?
Bright red.
Bright red. Good. So, bright red. So fun. So you can skim it on with the side. You can apply it on with something like this or even a Q-tip, right? Or just draw it on and then smudge it in with a makeup sponge. And it makes it look as if it's watercolor, but it's not. It's just paper. You can trace, like what's nice about this paper, you can see your sketch underneath. So you could do a much more careful, not such a loose one. You can do a much more careful one if you want, so that you can, you know, take your time to make it, and then with your rough construction, and then make it on top. And so it makes it quite easy. You can blend right on the page too, and then just, you can use your finger. Forgot to bring my Q-tips, but I often just use Q-tips. And it works great. And then you just erase out where you need to. And now it looks a little bit pink right now, so I'm going to add a bit on. I don't have a bright red, I don't think. I'm going to add a little bit more on. So when I'm on the marker paper, it doesn't stick as well, but it's just to say, you know, what's great about this is I can see through to my rough sketch and then do my pen line on top until I like my pen line, right? And I wrecked my original. I just lay it over, try a few quick passes till I get a sketch I like, and then add a little bit of color for a little creative flair, right? And anytime, oh, that doesn't look good, you erase it because it comes right off, right? So it's quite forgiving, right? And I can erase out some pillows out of this if I want. And what color pillows? Do you want to pop a color in there? What do you want? What should we have?
Maybe like maroon.
Maroon? I don't know if I have maroon. So I'm just gonna make them, I don't know, orange, just to put something. And maybe about like a bright green or something, just for something to put, okay? You're gonna do whatever you do. I kind of like kind of colorful and colorful. And then something.
Are those like a bread?
What's that?
Are those like bread?
They're little play pods or something.
Yeah.
And some of them are like seating pods and some of them are places to play that
Or is
hang.
it like glass?
I don't know, what's it made out of? Plastic, metal?
Metal.
Metal.
Yeah.
Okay.